With Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows running to replace Graham Plattner as the Democratic nominee in Maine's Senate race. So you're in. You've officially announced your Senate campaign to replace Graham Plattner on this Democratic ticket in Maine. What made you want to do that? Why'd you throw your hat in the race?
Look, it's been a tough week for a lot of folks. And a week ago, I was at a community potluck, and this was not on my radar screen. But what became so abundantly clear, and what we all know in Maine, is that the path to control of the U.S. Senate and the Supreme Court and the safety and security of the 2028 midterms lies through Maine. And so when Graham Plattner stepped down, we need someone, and I'm the best candidate, to unify Mainers, to bring people together and carry the movement that was ignited, that will stand up for the working class, that will stand up against the billionaires and massive corporations that are trying to buy our elections, and to protect democracy. The stakes could not be higher. So
are there lessons that you go ahead? Sorry, excuse me.
I decided I needed to do this because we must win in November. We need to unify our state. And I grew up in Maine since my whole life in CD2, in the rural part of the state. I'm a carpenter's daughter. I love this state, but I love my country.
What lessons did you learn from Graham Plattner's campaign?
So what was really tremendously exciting all year long is we saw record numbers of people turning out, folks feeling empowered and heard for the first time, that someone was speaking, fighting for the working classes. Someone was going to take on the billionaires and the massive corporations who are really ruining this country. And we saw record turnout in our June primary. He received more votes in that race than any other Senate primary candidate in history. Mainers built that movement. They deserve to see it carry through to November. We must defeat Susan Collins. But it's not about her. It's about the country and who we want to be, and giving working people a fighting chance, and protecting our democracy, and finally making good on promises like Medicare for all, like health care for people, like an economy that works for people. That's what this is about. It's about the movement.
When I was out talking to people for we call it our prediction market segment earlier in the week, there was someone who said to me, a classical musician named Jacob, that Susan Collins thinks could still lose because all Susan Collins says, and I'm paraphrasing what this person told me, is that she's concerned about things. And one of the things that she was concerned about back in 1996 when she first was elected is that she pledged only to serve 2 terms. I think it would be useful for us to go back and listen to that. Watch this.
If I'm elected, I will only serve 2 terms, regardless of whether term limits law, a constitutional amendment passes or not. 12 years is long enough to be in public service, make a contribution, and then come home and let someone else take your place.
Now she's up to 6 times running. What's your reaction to the throwback?
A lot has changed. And most of all, Susan Collins has changed. Look, in 2014, I ran against Susan Collins, and I didn't win. And I've learned a lot since then. But most of all, what's changed is that Susan Collins is not the person she said she was. She was the architect of Roe v. Wade. She didn't serve only 2 terms. And she has bowed down to Trump and been in his corner every time it has mattered. And so people are really frustrated. They don't trust politicians, and they don't trust that things are going to change. And that's why we need to build this movement and carry it forward.
You mentioned that you ran against her before, and she won all of these tough races by obviously appealing to independents there in Maine. And now you're right. There's Trump's unpopular agenda. You got the war in Iran. You've got the effects of the fall of Roe. You've got the immigration crackdown, which actually made its way to your state as well. What are you doing differently this time as opposed to 2014?
So what we need to do is bring together a coalition of the Republicans who are never Trumpers, the independents who voted for Obama and voted for Collins, and the Democrats who voted for Collins in the past because they thought she was something different. We need to bring that coalition together, and we have just 115 days to do so until Election Day. Now, after I lost that race, I turned around and won a state Senate race that voted for Trump and voted for me in 2016. The Republicans threw everything that they had against me, and I got reelected twice. And I did so by building a coalition of Republicans, independents, and Democrats who didn't care about party. They cared about real results and doing what's right, even when it's hard, and just honest work to stand up for people. And that's how we will win in November. This is a people-powered movement. It's not about any one person. It's about the people and what the people want.
Spoken like a true election administrator, Shannon Bellows, Maine Secretary of State and Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate in the great state of Maine. Thanks so much again.
Thank you.